This year I read 19 books so far, and today we're going to talk about my 8 favorite books, those that I really believe that you should pick up because are fantastic. And let's start with no other than Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first of the 4 secret projects that the author is going to be releasing this year, and God, I was excited. I was so in love with this book. It is super cozy. It feels way more different to what we're used to read with Sanderson. At least I felt that way. But it makes sense because it is narrated from the point of view of Hoyt, and we will see the story of this girl that lives in this island that it's kind of like a big rock, and one day her love will disappear and she will take it on herself to go and find him. It is super cheerful, cozy, it is very adventurous. The plot, it's fast, it is super easy to read, and it's a story that will give you serious good vibes. So it's fantastic. The only thing is that I was kind of expecting this sandal lunch moment, and I did not get it. It's not that kind of story, but it has incredible magic system. It has a very charming cast of characters. The illustrations of the book are fantastic, and overall a very solid read. Then we move to Gideon the Ninth. So I was super scared to pick up this book because I was kind of like aware of this book being a mess and super confusing. I've seen everywhere memes of confusion is your friend, and I can say that it feels very much like that. I really love the setting. So we will have these different houses in space where each of these different houses have like one of these powers. All of them are necromancers, and we will see this almost contest trial where we will follow one house specifically and 2 different characters from this house, and you won't really understand what is happening, the different puzzles that our characters will need to meet, but nonetheless the environment, it's super fascinating. The sense of humor was phenomenal, so on point for me. I was really laughing out loud, and it's this type of story that although you don't really understand a lot, you want to keep reading because you want to understand that, but what you read still makes sense and you can still enjoy it. So I really recommend also the audiobook for this. It's pretty outstanding, so also pick it up. We continue with the Emily White Encyclopedia of Fairies, which to me is the perfect child of Half a Soul and An Enchantment of Ravens. It's a story that it's super cozy, that it's also very charming, and that it's set in these freezing setting. So it's a very good read to pick up now before the spring comes. And we will have this character that it's different in the sense that she is really serious, and her mission is to create this encyclopedia of fairies, but she will have this companion that will be kind of like her enemy. Same field, approaches very different to the topic, and the dynamics were really hilarious. It was at times slow paced, but it really made it for me because the characters are so unique but so charming, and you know, it's really also a fun story. So if you want a palate cleanser, this is the perfect one. Also felt super short. And then we move from the fantasy for a second because I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and this book really fascinated me. This is the kind of book that although it is really character driven and slow paced and not a lot of dramatic things happen at all moments, it is still made for a book that was super obsessive, and I cannot really explain why. I just know that every time that I pick up this book, I ended up dreaming about this. It has been pitched as perfect for lovers of Ready Player One, which I'm not so sure if that is correct way of phrasing it, because it is super different. It is not a story that will revolve around one video game and you being there, but more about the people that creates video games. So if you like that vibe, that universe, you will really enjoy it. But it's way more character driven, and it was so fascinating to me to see how these different characters crafted stories. I was so really invested. And after that, I picked up a duology that so far is one of my favorite reads of this year, and it's my obsession and I cannot stop talking about it, and that is The Elements of Cadence, with the first book, A River Enchanted. Now, this is the perfect book if you're looking for something that it's cozy, that it's beautiful, that it's character driven, but the pace it's super good. It has a magic system that it's soft, but that it revolves around the fairies, around the spirits, and I found it so incredibly charming. It's this kind of narration that from the first moment you know that you're reading something that it's different because it's so beautiful, so unique, and I really loved it. The first book will tell the story of this island where little children have been disappearing, and one of the characters that will protagonize this story will need to go back to this island and, you know, try and figure out what is happening. But the core of the story, what lies underneath, is so very much like dramatic. It is beautiful. Another book that I also really liked was Godkiller. This isn't a perfect read, but it has so many good things that for me make it worth it. First, it's short. Second, it is really different, or feels really different to what we've read. Tackles the topic of gods and humans, and therefore we will be discussing topics that have been talked about before. But we will have this Godkiller, we will also have almost an animal companion, a little girl, and so they made for an incredible different cast of characters to follow. We will be seeing their point of view differently, and we will have a very good blend of action, of very heartbreaking choices, and a reflection of why people adore gods, if they should be here or no, the limits of the powers and what people is doing with them, and I really liked it. And before we go to my latest obsession, and really a book that you should 100% pick it up, just wanted to recommend again A Court of Thorns and Roses. The first time that I read this trilogy was like 7 years ago, and I was so scared of rereading and not really liking this story, but it was a very good, like it is a still very good fantasy with, of course, an incredible romance. So for me, this is my favorite fantasy romance of all time, and this is the ultimate deal. Not that we're getting dramatic or anything. The first book at its essence, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it really differs from that. We will have incredible characters, very nuanced ones, banter between the characters, these family found vibes, very steamy moments, and overall a very bingeable read. And let's go now to my latest obsession with The Justice of Kings. I've already read book 1 and 2, which was released not a long time ago, and I can understand now the hype of this book. Really pick it up. It is very much as if you take the Auror's figure from Harry Potter and you create a book surrounded that. So we will have kind of like a police kind of figure with magic, and you take the setting from The Witcher. That is what this is all about. It's super different. We will have the story of this main character who is the detective, the judge, and the one that executes justice. And then we'll have all the characters surrounding him. And we will follow the point of view of one of these characters that surrounds him, of Elena. And she is really learning, and she is really seeing everything from the perspective of someone new to this. We will learn about the magic, which is basically that they have these voice of the emperor, so they are able to command people to say the truth. But that's just the surface. We will get to see way more of these eldritch powers and how they can commune with the dead. And at its core, there's a huge religious and politic entanglement, and the stakes are super high, and the things that happen are really savage. I cannot put this book down. Very consuming. I will leave in the description also what are the remaining books that I read but that didn't make the best tag for me, with my comments, so that you can also see for yourself if you want to pick them up or not. Let me know down below what have been your best books so far, and if you have something that you want me to pick up next.